Let me bring the council up to speed on where we are in the planning process, just briefly. And we are on schedule for our May meeting on the 16th, I believe, and 17th, to have a vote on adoption of the plan, rulemaking package, and the EIR. And our comment period closed on Monday. For that first 15-day comment period. We received 22 letters in response to that, and at this point, early in the analysis, it looks like there are no new substantive issues that would require any further extension. However, another item did come up, and that was that we realized that we had modified our financial summary that goes to the Department of Finance, Form 399, and that had not been vetted with the public. So we started another 15-day comment period. I think it was on Tuesday, is that right? 24th, okay. And but that won't affect the schedule. So for 15 days now, we'll have an open comment period just on that financial summary. So I just wanted to make council members aware of that, but that won't affect our ultimate schedule. Another item that I have for you is, and this is an item that I would request a decision on, is that we have a contract amendment for legal services, and it's for an additional $125,000 for outside legal services. And the point of this is basically to be able to continue our work on closing response to comments, and that's pretty much what that's about. So I would ask the council for a motion on that to approve for $125,000.
And would that be under item 4B, contracts update?
Yes.
Okay.
I would move that.
We have a motion by Councilman Johnston.
I have a question, Mr. Chair. I would second it for purposes of getting it on the...
We have a second.
I guess my question is, so the $125,000 extension, and I heard what Chris said about to close out responses to comments, but are we anticipating a flurry of activity that's going to generate $125,000 in work between now? In one breath I heard you say that there didn't appear to be anything that was going to throw us off track relative to the May time frame to consider adoption. I didn't say there wasn't maybe some legal issues that need to be addressed, but that seemed to me, if that's the period of time you're talking about, that's a pretty condensed period of time for that amount of money. So I guess I'd like to maybe have a little more.
Yeah, there's not a new flurry. It's basically just momentum from all the work that's been ongoing right now, and we're a little bit short. And so to finish that up in a logical way, it's going to cost roughly $125,000.
Yeah, Don, if I could just weigh in a little.
Okay.
And again, this is a contract that's been in existence now since the beginning of the EIR commencement, and this is with the outside law firm of Shute, Mahali, and Weinberger. We had to go and get Attorney General approval to enter into the contract, as well as Governor Office approval. We notified the unions per state procedure. And they've been actually working fantastically and diligently all along. As you know, we had an initial draft EIR, then we recirculated the EIR. Right now, we're in the final stages of preparing the final EIR, which is a heck of a lot of work. They're putting together the findings, doing the lion's share of legal work together with the AG's office on preparing the final EIR, as well as the fact that we had to go out and recirculate the modified text of the regulation, so they have to make sure that the final EIR adequately addresses any changes that we have proposed in the regulation. So that's another wrinkle. But as Chris said, this is just to get us to the finish line. The contract itself expires at the end of June, so we're not asking for an extension of the contract itself. This is just adding some money to get us to where we need to get. In terms of, just for the record, in terms of the reasonableness, because that's always important in my book too, the reasonableness of what we're paying outside counsel and the total amount, we're getting a great deal. I've done comparison studies of other public agency CEQA projects where outside counsel's been hired, we're getting a discounted rate for, the highest quality CEQA attorneys that we have in California. So I'm confident that they're doing a great job on behalf of the council, and this is just to get us through the finish line. Again, we have a $500,000 delegated authority to the executive officer. This amendment would push the contract above that, and that's why we're bringing it to you for full transparency and consistent with that.
Well, I appreciate the explanation. So this will take the contract into not to exceed amount of $625,000. Is that correct?
500. Is it 575? Yeah, 575.
575. So
Yes, sir.
so we haven't. So you're going to add another 75,000.
We're adding 125 to bring it to 575. Pardon me? 150. Yes.
Okay. Then you,
I
I hear your numbers. Okay, but so you said you have contract authority up to $500,000.
Right.
But you're adding 150 to 350.
So the amount.
Or to,
Let me offer this, Chris. I have a document here. I don't know exactly where it came from, but the original contract amount of $50,000, Amendment 1, June 30th, 2012, 175. Time extension to December 30th, 2012, adding 175,000. Amendment 3, time extension. Amendment 4, increased dollar amount, adding 100,000. New total 425. And now today,
That's what it is.
increased dollar amount, adding 150. New total 525,000.
Thank you, Randy.
do we have that in our packet, or that was news? I trust what you say. That's good.
The amount, the new total amount is listed in the contract log that you have as part of your packet.
Right.
The contract before this amount, this amendment, was under the $500,000 threshold.
Okay.
Now with this amount that we're proposing to add, we've brought it above the threshold, and therefore we're bringing it to you for your approval.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And again, if I wouldn't ask my questions, I had a chance to look at that. But
And I
that's-
appreciate the vice chair's.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And the documentation for that, Don, is in item 4.
It's in there.
It's at the end of section 4. There are 5 pages, 6 pages of the worksheet
Okay, it's in the worksheet. But
without the breakdown.
without the breakdown. Okay, I hadn't seen that. But she just went forward. So okay.
Any further comments? Let the record show that Councilman Gray is now with us. We'll go to the vote. Pat.
Aye, Gray, aye.
Damrell, aye.
Fiorini, aye.
Totally aye.
Motion's carried. All right, Chris?
I just had one more item, and thanks, Chris, for that explanation. I appreciate that. And our planning schedule, there's one last thing that we're working out, and that's the review of the Department of Finance. And at this point, there's some uncertainty as to whether they're going to be able to complete their review by mid-June, which would keep us on schedule for our July completion. But I haven't heard a final word back from the department, and we've been conversing earlier in the week on that. And I'll just offer a warning that there's some uncertainty with respect to the department's ability to finish that in a timely manner.
What are the ramifications if they don't?
Probably push us into October for final completion.
This would delay
Better go to a microphone.
The Department of Finance has a role in reviewing the fiscal impact statement that accompanies our rulemaking package when we submit it to the Office of Administrative Law. And so the effect of their delaying review, and we'll see, again, they're already engaged, but we're catching them at a busy time because they're right in the middle of the budget period of the legislature. The effect of a delay in their completing their review would delay the date at which we submit the rulemaking package to the Office of Administrative Law. It wouldn't delay your action on the plan and the rules necessarily. It would just slow the date at which we submit it to Office of Administrative Law, and then that might defer the effective date of the regulations.
All right, thanks a lot.
The effective dates of regulation are now quarterly?
Yeah, they're typically quarterly, but we can ask the Office of Administrative Law, if I understand it, for an expedited review and for an exception to the normal pattern of having regulations take effect quarterly. And we would do that, is what I think would Mr. Stevens has been anticipating, should Finance not be able to complete its review in time for us to submit for the July deadline.
Because missing a month would be missing 3 months otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So that would mean that the regulations would be in effect at the end of 2013 rather than
I think it would mean they would, Chris has probably got more information on this than I do, but my understanding is if the regulations, if the typical pattern would be that the Office of Administrative Law would review them in July, and then they would become effective in that month. Is that right?
What do you mean by the typical? I think it's a quarterly.
The quarterly review, yeah.
So the Office of Administrative Law has to approve the regulations and then submit them to the Secretary of State by a certain date in order to meet the cutoff for whatever that quarter is.
Yeah.
So I think, as Mr. Johnston's saying, if we delay, we get pushed into the next quarter.
Yeah, and it's like it could be if we miss a week because we're coming right up against the deadline anyway.
I thought we were on a timetable that we're most likely to have the regulations go into effect October 1st, and if we miss it, it'll be January 1st. Is that?
Chris, I think we're in a, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're in a timetable where the regulations will take effect in July, and if we miss it, it'll take effect in October.
Okay.
That's right. Very good.
That concludes the executive officer's report. And